Her family forced her to marry a poor security guard, not knowing he was guarding an empire. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us return to our main character. The sky over Willow Shore sagged low and gray, heavy with the kind of silence that felt like a warning. Inside the tiny seaside house, Lia Rowan stood before a chipped mirror, hands trembling as she pinned back her dark hair. She had never looked more like a stranger to herself. Today was supposed to be a future. She chose college classes, a stable job, a life built from her own hands, but instead it was the day her family forced her into a marriage arranged for someone else. A marriage meant for her wealthy cousin Celeste, who slipped out of it without a second thought the moment she learned the groom was just a poor night shift security guard. In the reflection, Lia saw the fatigue of too many fights she'd lost before they even started. Outside, her family's voices carried through the cold wind, full of impatience and quiet disgust. They didn't see her tears, only their ticket to Kestrel Corporation's money. And somewhere in the distance, her future husband, unwanted by her, unwanted by them, waited in a church he didn't choose either. No one knew the truth buried beneath his cheap uniform. No one imagined that the poor security guard standing at the end of that aisle was guarding far more than a building. He was guarding an empire. Lia pulled her thin coat tighter around herself and kissed her sleeping grandmother's forehead before leaving. "I'll make this worth it," she whispered. "At least you'll be safe." The promise scraped her throat on the way out. Her relatives were already waiting by the old truck. Dalton Rowan, Celeste's father, didn't bother hiding his irritation. "Hurry up. The Hale boy won't wait forever." It was supposed to be Celeste up there. Then with a sneer that cut deeper than cold wind, he added, "At least one girl in this family knows her place." Lia climbed into the back seat, her heart beating in her palms. She kept replaying the deal she struck in desperation, $150,000 for her grandmother's medical care and a job at the Meridian Hotel, her only chance to survive in the city. They agreed, not because they cared, but because losing Kestrel's investment could bankrupt them. The church looked too grand for what today really was an exchange, a transaction, a convenient sacrifice. Evan Hale stood near the altar, hands behind his back, dressed in a plain dark security guard uniform. He was taller than she imagined and unexpectedly composed, as if the whispered insults floating through the chapel couldn't touch him. His eyes, calm, unreadable gray, lifted the moment she stepped in. Celeste watched from a pew, smirking. "Poor Lia," she whispered loudly to her sister Ava. "She really thinks this is an upgrade." Evan's gaze flicked to them for a brief second, and the smirk on Celeste's lips faltered without reason. The ceremony began. No flowers, no music, no joy. Lia's voice trembled slightly when she said, "I do," but she forced it steady. She couldn't afford fragility. Not when her grandmother's life depended on her strength. Evan's turn came. His voice, deep and even, didn't waver. "I do." But in his eyes there was something almost protective. The moment the vows ended, Dalton walked straight up to Evan, speaking just softly enough to pretend it was polite. "Now that this is over, make sure you sign the papers allowing us access to the investment division." "You security guards are slow, aren't you?" Evan blinked once, expression blank. "I'll handle what I can." Celeste burst into laughter. "Oh, please. He doesn't even understand half of what Dad is saying." "Look at him." Lia stepped between them, her voice firmer than she felt. "Enough. Let's go." Outside, wind swept harshly across the steps of the church. Evan offered his hand, not in romance, but in quiet solidarity. She hesitated, then took it, because right now he was the only person not trying to shove her into a corner. They walked to his transportation, and Lia froze. A shared rental e-bike waited at the curb. Celeste shrieked with laughter. "Oh my God, he's even poorer than we thought." Evan ignored the voices. "Ready?" he asked simply. Lia nodded, because humiliation was temporary. Grandmother's life was not. The city of Clearwater Bay rose in the distance like a glass kingdom, towers cutting into the skylights, glimmering even in daylight. When they arrived at Evan's apartment, Lia found a small old room with peeling wallpaper and a single window facing a narrow alley. "This is where you live?" she asked softly. Evan shrugged as if it didn't matter. "It's temporary. I work nights. I don't stay here much." She started cleaning automatically, wiping dust, straightening frames, fixing a leaking faucet. Evan watched from the doorway, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "You don't have to," he murmured. "I know," she replied. "But it feels better when things are in order." He nodded once, almost gratefully. When she accidentally found an expensive shirt in his drawer, she paused. "This isn't something a night shift guard would buy." "Someone gifted it," he said quickly. "I don't wear it." She watched him carefully, sensing cracks in his disguise, but unable to interpret them yet. As night fell, Evan leaned against the window frame, studying her as she folded towels with quiet precision. "From today on," he said, voice low and unexpectedly gentle, "you don't stand alone, not anymore." She looked up, startled. He wasn't smiling, he wasn't flirting, he was promising. And Lia had no idea that the man making that promise wasn't a guard living in a cheap apartment, but the hidden heir to the most powerful empire in Clearwater Bay. Lia woke up to the faint hum of the city, a sound so different from the slow rhythmic crash of waves back in Willow Shore. The small room she now shared with Evan felt even smaller in the morning light, its flaws clearer, its walls thinner, its silence heavier. She folded the blanket she'd used on the floor, stretched her arms over her head, and told herself firmly, "This is temporary. Everything is temporary." Evan stepped out from the tiny kitchenette, hair slightly damp, uniform jacket already on. "There's tea," he said, gesturing to a chipped mug on the table. "Thank you," she replied, still unsure how to speak to a man who was both her stranger and her husband. The tea was lukewarm, a little bitter, but it steadied her nerves. She glanced around the apartment again, peeling wallpaper, a short stack of bills on the counter, a cracked frame without a picture, and told herself not to judge. She wasn't here for comfort, she was here for survival. "I'll take you to the hotel," Evan said. "First days can be messy. I've survived worse," she answered, forcing a small smile. They walked down 3 narrow flights of stairs and out into the open air. Clearwater Bay stretched before her like a city made of mirrors, glass towers glittering in the sun, neon signs still glowing from the night streets, buzzing with hurried footsteps. She felt small but not defeated. Evan unlocked a shared rental e-bike. "Ready," Lia blinked. "We're taking this, it's fast," Evan replied dryly. "And free for the first 10 minutes. She bit back a laugh and climbed on, gripping the sides awkwardly as they sped into the drift of morning traffic. When they reached the Meridian Hotel, Lia craned her neck upward. The place didn't look real. White marble columns guarded the entrance. Golden logos shimmered on spotless glass doors, and attendants in crisp uniforms greeted guests with perfect rehearsed smiles. She glanced at her own new uniform, plain, simple, undeniably the lowest rank, a drop of seawater in a bowl of diamonds. Inside, Amy waited for her arms crossed. "You're late." "I'm 5 minutes early," Lia corrected gently. "Same thing," Amy snapped. "Follow me. Don't talk unless asked, and don't act like you belong here." Lia breathed in slowly. "She doesn't know me yet." Amy toured her through the housekeeping floors with clipped commentary. "This guest is famous. Don't touch anything. This room is delicate. Don't break anything. This corridor belongs to VIPs. Don't breathe too loudly." Lia just nodded, absorbing everything, repeating each instruction in her head. She had walked through worse places than this, through gossip, pity, condescension, but she'd always walked out stronger. Halfway through the shift, Amy shoved a cart of towels into her hands. "Room 1907. Don't take too long, and don't embarrass me." Lia was about to knock when a sudden cry echoed behind her. An elderly woman slipped on the glossy floor, her cane skidding away. Without thinking, Lia rushed over, catching her arm before she hit the ground. "Easy. I've got you," Lia murmured. The woman winced, clutching her ankle. Her hair was silver elegant, her jewelry subtle but expensive, clearly someone of status. Lia knelt, assessing quickly. Years of helping at Willow Shore's small community clinic sharpened her instincts. "I think it's just a sprain," Lia said gently. Let me stabilize it. She tore a strip from a towel, wrapped it securely, and supported the foot. The woman studied her with sharp, discerning eyes. You're not just a hotel maid. No, ma'am, Lia replied softly. I'm someone who knows how to help. A faint smile flickered across the older woman's lips before attendants hurried over and whisked her away. Amy cornered Lia minutes later. What did you say to Mrs. Hale? Mrs. Hale, Lia echoed. The wife of the former CEO. Amy hissed. She practically owns this place. If you said anything out of line, I didn't, Lia said calmly. I just helped her. Amy scoffed and stalked off, clearly annoyed that Lia hadn't been fired on the spot. That evening, Lia walked out of the staff exit and found Evan leaning casually against a railing waiting. The sight surprised her men, like him didn't usually wait for anyone. You okay? He asked. Fine, she replied. Just learning. He studied her face carefully. First days are rough. Her lips curved. I'm tougher than I look. He gave a short nod as if agreeing with something he'd known all along. Then you'll be fine here. They walked together toward the e-bike station. At an intersection, they paused as two hotel managers passed by talking in hushed tones. I heard he's arriving next week, CEO Hale himself. Clearwater Bay hasn't seen him in 2 years. People say he's the one truly guarding Kestrel's empire. Better hope the staff don't mess up. He fires entire departments if needed. The managers disappeared into the crowd. Lia's heart thudded. That was the man she needed to beg, no persuade, to stop the destruction of Willow Shore. As they reached the bike, she asked casually, Do you know what the CEO is like? Evan stiffened almost imperceptibly. Difficult, he said. Demanding. Dangerous sometimes. She nodded slowly. Good. Then I'll just have to be brave. Evan almost smiled. They rode home in silence, wind brushing past them. But as they reached the apartment building, a faint chime echoed from Evan's pocket. He glanced at his phone, expression tightening. A message flashed across the screen before he could hide it. Executive alert, Evan Hale detected in Meridian Hotel. Identify protocol triggered. Lia tilted her head. What was that wrong number, he said too quickly. She didn't push, not yet, but she had seen the name. And she had a feeling her husband was hiding far more than poverty behind those calm gray eyes. Coral Market smelled of brine spice and money, 3 things that never mixed well. Lia stepped through the entrance holding a reusable bag Evan had given her, determined to make their first real dinner. Willow Shore had taught her how to choose fresh fish, how to remove sand from clams, how to bargain without insulting anyone. Clearwater Bay, however, was a different ocean entirely. She stopped at the king lobster stall, eyes widening at the deep red shells stacked on ice. These would be perfect, she murmured. Before she could reach out, the stall owner snapped, Don't touch that. Lia blinked. I just want to look. The man looked her up and down with a smirk full of contempt. Honey, unless you're here to serve the rich folks, you don't touch king lobster. Go to the budget section. A pair of customers passing by snorted. Looks like she came from a fishing village. How cute. Heat rushed into her cheeks, but she kept her composure. I didn't ask the price yet. $380 per lobster, the owner said sharply. Too expensive for whatever you are. Before Lia could reply, Evan stepped beside her. He didn't raise his voice or show anger. He simply picked up a lobster to examine it. The stall owner slapped his hand away. Hey, you break it. You buy it. Don't pretend you can afford it. Those night shift security jobs barely pay for instant noodles. Evan didn't respond. His face was blank, too blank. Lia stepped between them protectively. Stop talking to him like that. He didn't do anything wrong. A woman behind the counter broke into laughter. She's defending him. That's sweet. Sad but sweet. One of the market guards approached, noticing Evan's uniform. Hey buddy, this corner is for real customers. Move along. Lia gripped the bag tighter. We're not bothering anyone. But the guard shoved Evan lightly. You heard her. Move. That was it, humiliation layered on humiliation. Lia's voice rose steady despite her shaking hands. Is this how you treat people here, like we're below you? The stall owner scoffed. If you can't afford it, don't act offended. We've got a promotion today, 90% off for the 100th customer, but people like you won't get the chance. A group behind them shifted forward, deliberately elbowing Lia out of the way to steal the number. Evan calmly stepped aside, pulling out his phone. Wait here. Lia frowned. What are you doing? Making sure you get the dinner you want, he said softly, before walking toward the end of the aisle. She watched him dial a number she didn't recognize. He spoke quietly but firmly, too firmly for a simple worker. Activate Coral Market Customer Protocol. Assign the 100th customer promotion to the woman in the green jacket at stall 4, immediately. The call ended quickly. Evan slipped the phone back into his pocket and returned. Lia narrowed her eyes. What did you just... Before she finished, the entire market echoed with an announcement through overhead speakers. Attention customers. The 100th shopper today is the woman in the green jacket at stall 4. Congratulations. You've earned a 90% discount on all seafood purchases. Everyone turned. Lia froze. The stall owner's face drained of color. This must be wrong. 2 employees rushed out with a basket. Ma'am, congratulations. Everything for you is 90% off. The crowd gasped. Someone muttered, This has never happened at this market. Lia tried to protest. There must be a mistake. No mistake, one employee insisted cheerfully. System update shows you're the winner. Evan stood silently beside her, hands in his pockets, looking almost bored. The stall owner swallowed hard. Which lobster? Which one would you like? Lia glanced at Evan. He offered a faint smile. Choose the one you want. She chose cautiously, still suspicious, but allowed the staff to pack it. Brandon, the vendor who insulted them, passed the bag stiffly, unable to meet her eyes. On the way back home, the air was cool, and Lia felt strangely lighter. That was... weird, she said, finally. Evan shrugged. Maybe you're lucky. You think I believe that she asked. The timing was too perfect. He glanced at her. Is it so hard to accept that something good happened to you today? She looked away. Maybe. For a while they walked in silence. Cars rushed by, city lights shimmered on puddles, and people hurried through their lives without noticing the couple carrying a discounted lobster and an unspoken question. As they climbed the stairs to their apartment, a faint chime came from Evan's phone. He turned sharply, shielding the screen by instinct. Lia didn't try to pry, but the notification was big enough that she caught a glimpse. System log executive alert. Coral Market Protocol executed successfully. CEO Hale present. Auto report submitted. Evan's thumb slammed the screen off as if burned. He slipped the phone away, forced a neutral expression. Lia raised an eyebrow. What was that? Nothing important, he replied too quickly. She stepped closer, studying his face. Evan, why do I feel like I don't know anything about you? He held her gaze for a long moment, too long. Because he said quietly, I'm not ready for you to know everything. Lia's heart stumbled. He walked past her to unlock the door, but she stayed frozen on the landing, replaying the message she saw. CEO Hale present. Her husband was poor. Her husband lived in a tiny room. Her husband rode a rental e-bike. So why then? Was his name showing up in a system alert meant for the most powerful person in Kestrel Corporation? Lia arrived at the Meridian the next morning with a knot in her stomach. The memory of last night's strange alert still stuck in her mind. She tried to shake it off as Amy marched toward her, heels clicking like accusations. You follow me, Amy snapped. We're short-staffed, so don't make a fool of yourself today. I'll do my job, Lia replied calmly. You'll try, Amy corrected. Lia inhaled deeply and stepped into the bustle of the hotel. Golden chandeliers dripped light across polished marble. Guests moved like they owned the world. Staff moved like they were invisible. Lia fell somewhere in between, visible enough to be judged, but not valued enough to matter. As she mopped the corridor outside the executive lounge, the elevator dinged. She looked up just as someone familiar stepped out. Evan. Except this wasn't the Evan who rode rented bikes or hid behind simple uniforms. This Evan walked through the lobby with a steady confidence, something sharp beneath his calm exterior. He looked like a man stepping into a world where every detail belonged to him. 3 managers nearly tripped over themselves as they hurried forward. Good morning, sir, one said too quickly, bowing his head slightly. Evan froze for half a second, then gave the faintest nod as if dismissing them. Lia blinked. Why did they call you sir? Evan didn't even look at her. They didn't. You misheard. No, she insisted I heard it clearly. He paused, his jaw tightening. Lia, they mistake people all the time. Don't overthink it. Before she could press further, he stepped into the security corridor into a section only VIPs and high-level executives used. The guard standing at the door stepped aside without question. Lia's breath hitched. Something was wrong. Something big. But she had no time to think about it. Amy called out, "Move it, Rowan. We have a floral briefing." In the event hall, Lia found Oliver and several staff clustered around a set of design boards. A massive announcement hung behind them. Kestrel Celebration Night, a tribute to our legacy. Oliver greeted her. "You'll assist with the floral exhibition. We'll need meticulous work." Amy scoffed. Meticulous with her Lia kept her chin up. "What do I need to do?" Oliver handed her a clipboard. "We are preparing for the arrival of CEO Hale. He will be at the event." A quiet wave passed through the room. CEO Hale, the man everyone feared, the man who guarded the empire, the man Lia desperately needed to meet, because if she didn't, Willowshore would be wiped off the map. Amy leaned close, whispering, "Don't even think about getting near him. You'll embarrass the whole team." "I don't embarrass easily," Lia replied. "Then you'll fit right in with the rest of the disasters," Amy said sweetly before walking away. Lia ignored her and studied the floral blueprint. They were missing something important, a centerpiece strong enough to honor Kestrel's heritage. And then she saw it, an empty square labeled Orchid Noir, Star Exhibit. Her breath caught. She'd heard whispers Orchid Noir was one of the rarest flowers ever cultivated, rumored to be nearly impossible to maintain. And Kestrel had obtained one. A staff member carried in a temperature-controlled case. He opened it, revealing the pot of Orchid Noir. It was dying. The petals were dull. The leaves wilted. The roots showed signs of heat shock. Amy gasped dramatically. Who touched it? Who ruined this? She pointed at Lia the instant she caught her eye. You were the only newbie near the storage room. Lia's voice remained steady. "I haven't been in the storage room," liar Amy snapped. "You probably bumped the heater. Orchid Noir can't survive warm water. Everyone knows that well, except people like you." Oliver crouched to inspect the plant. "This burn is fresh. Someone used the wrong water." "It wasn't me," Lia repeated. Amy folded her arms. "Then prove it." Before Lia could answer, a voice floated in from the doorway. "Let her try." Everyone turned. Evan stood there leaning against the frame like he had every right to be in a restricted area. A few staff members tensed, unsure if they should challenge him or greet him. Lia looked between Evan and the dying orchid. She could save it. She knew she could. She stepped forward. "I need ice sea salt pruning shears in a shallow basin." Amy scoffed. "What are you going to do? Cook it?" But Oliver nodded for the team to comply. Lia worked quickly. She trimmed the burned roots, cooled them with ice, and dissolved sea salt into a cold bath. Her movements were precise, instinctive. Her father had once taught her how to handle sea orchids on rough summers in Willowshore. Flowers were more predictable than people. A hush fell as she lowered the roots into the basin. Minutes passed. A faint shimmer of color returned to the petals. Whispers stirred. How did she do that? Is that even possible? A deep voice spoke from the hall. "Interesting technique." Everyone turned to see Armand Leto, the world-renowned floral expert, stepping forward with measured curiosity. Amy nearly fainted. Armand knelt, inspecting Lia's work closely. Cold root neutralization. Rare. Difficult. Almost forgotten. He looked up at Lia. "Where did you learn this?" "My father," she said quietly. "He grew coastal orchids." Armand stood. "You saved it." Amy's face twisted in shock. Oliver clapped once. "Lia, effective immediately. You're officially part of the floral team." Armand nodded in approval. "I would like to," but he stopped mid-sentence. His gaze shifted past Lia to Evan. And then subtly, respectfully, Armand inclined his head. "Mr. Hale," he murmured. The room froze. Lia's heart dropped. Evan's expression darkened warning in his eyes. "You're mistaken." But Armand's eyes flickered with recognition too late to hide. Lia's pulse hammered in her ears as the world tilted slightly. Why would a world-famous expert bow to a night shift security guard? Unless he wasn't one. Unless nothing about him was what he claimed. For the first time, Lia wondered Who exactly is my husband? The room felt colder than it should have, as if the dying orchid noir absorbed the warmth around it. Lia stood in the center of the floral hall, dozens of eyes pinned to her like needles. Amy crossed her arms with a triumphant smirk, waiting for Lia to crumble while Oliver watched with cautious curiosity. Even Evan stayed by the doorway, gaze sharp and unreadable, as if this moment mattered far more than anyone understood. Lia exhaled slowly and reached for the tools she had requested. Ice, sea salt, pruning shears, a shallow basin. Her hands didn't shake, not because she wasn't nervous, but because she had learned long ago that delicate things needed steady hands. "What exactly are you doing?" Amy asked loudly, trying to stir laughter again. "Saving it," Lia said. Some staff chuckled, others leaned closer. The orchid noir lay limp in its pot, its black-violet petals dulled to a lifeless gray. Burn marks along the roots confirmed exactly what Lia suspected someone had poured overheated water on it intentionally. She rolled up her sleeves and began cutting away the scorched roots. Gasps filled the room. "She's killing it." "No, she's insane." "Oliver, stop her before we lose the exhibition centerpiece." But Oliver didn't move. "Let her continue," he said quietly. Lia dipped the trimmed roots into cold salt water, letting the ice swirl and melt. The basin frosted over, sending a thin mist into the air. Memories surfaced, her father's voice whispering over the wind. Back in Willow Shore, orchids born near the sea carry the sea inside them. When they're wounded by heat, give them the ocean back. She kept her focus steady, fingers moving with practiced care. Within minutes, the petals shivered almost imperceptibly, and a soft sheen returned to the leaves. Someone gasped. "It's responding." Another voice whispered, "No way." The room grew so quiet Lia could hear her own heartbeat. Slowly, cautiously, she lifted the orchid and replanted it in a cooler soil mixture. The air hummed with disbelief, and then a ripple of faint color traveled up the stem. Petals darkened into a richer shade. Life returned. Armand Leto, who had been watching silently from the entrance, stepped forward with widened eyes. "Cold root purge," he murmured. "A lost technique." Lia looked up, surprised. "My father taught me." Armand nodded in admiration. "Your father must have been remarkable." Amy's jaw slackened. Oliver shook his head in astonishment. Armand circled the orchid. "This bloom is stronger than before. You didn't just save it, you improved its resilience." Whispers spread like fire. "Who is she? She was just housekeeping yesterday. How does a village girl know more than a trained team?" Amy finally snapped. "This is ridiculous." "It was luck." Armand straightened, looking directly at her. "That wasn't luck. It was mastery." The room froze. Amy flushed an angry red but said nothing else. Armand turned back to Lia. "I would like to speak with you privately about your methods. Kestrel's botanical division has lost many traditional techniques. You could help revive them." Lia's eyes widened. I don't know if I'm qualified." "Your work just proved you are," Armand replied firmly. Behind him, Evan shifted slightly, his expression unreadable. He seemed proud, conflicted, and deeply cautious all at once. Armand glanced toward the doorway and paused. His posture changed, subtle but unmistakable, when he looked at Evan. It was small, nearly invisible, but Lia caught it, a bow of respect. She looked between them, confusion brewing. Why would someone like Armand bow to a security guard? Lia stepped forward. "Do you two know each other?" Armand opened his mouth and closed it again. Something flickered in his eyes. Evan's voice cut through the tension. "He's mistaken," he said, tone low. "There's nothing to explain." But Armand hesitated, as if his instincts urged him to speak the truth. "I apologize," he said finally. "I thought you were someone else." He turned to Lia again. "Meet me tomorrow morning. I want you to assist with the final preparations for the exhibition." Oliver nodded after him. "And Lia, consider this official. You're now part of the floral decoration team." The staff murmured with shock and envy. Amy spun around and stormed off, heels clacking like snapping bones. Lia remained rooted where she stood, still absorbing everything. She had gone from being mocked, accused, and nearly humiliated to earning praise from one of the most respected experts in the field. Evan approached her quietly. "You did well." "You knew I could save it?" she asked. "I trusted your hands," he said. Her breath hitched. In this city full of strangers and cruelty, Evan had been the only one who consistently stood behind her, even when she didn't understand why. They walked out together through the back corridor. The Orchid Noir, restored and glowing softly under the museum lights, watched them go like a silent witness. As they stepped into the evening air, Lia finally asked the question that had been burning in her chest. "Evan, why did Armand bow to you?" Evan stopped walking. For a long moment he didn't answer. Then he said, voice almost too controlled, "Sometimes people confuse me for someone I'm not." Lia stared at him, but she'd seen the truth in Armand's eyes, and she knew deep down that Evan Hale was far more than a poor man living in a tiny apartment. The Meridian Hotel glowed like a palace that evening, every corner polished for the night banquet. Lia moved through the lobby with a cart of floral arrangements, trying to keep her breathing steady. The closer the event came, the sharper the staff's whispers became, some admiring her sudden rise, others wishing to drag her back down. Amy's voice cut through the noise. "Try not to embarrass us tonight, Rowan. The banquet is for elites, not whatever you are." Lia ignored her and adjusted a vase of hydrangeas. She had bigger things to worry about, like the looming announcement about Willow Shore. If the banquet confirmed the demolition, her home would be gone forever. She turned toward the ballroom just as a cluster of familiar faces entered. Her stomach clenched. The Rowan family. Dalton Rowan walked in as if he owned the place, chest puffed out, nodding to wealthy guests who didn't know him. His daughters Celeste and Ava glimmered in designer gowns. Lia felt her hands go cold. Ava spotted her first. Her smirk curled like a blade. "Look who we have here, Mrs. Hale, the housemaid." Celeste giggled. "I still can't believe you actually married him. I would have died before walking down the aisle with a guard." Dalton gave Lia a disdainful once-over. "So this is what you've become, pushing carts. Your grandmother must be proud." The words stung, but Lia held her composure. "Please step aside. I have work to do." Ava swept a glass of red wine off a passing tray and tilted it dangerously near Lia's uniform. "Work. But can you even handle real responsibility?" Then she accidentally tipped the glass. The crimson liquid splashed across a white silk tablecloth worth more than Lia's yearly income. Dalton clicked his tongue. "Look what you've done, girl. That cloth costs $100,000. You'll have to pay for it." A small crowd gathered, eager for drama. Lia straightened her shoulders. "Check the cameras. I didn't touch it." Amy quickly intervened. "No cameras needed." Lia apologized. "You ruined a VIP setup." Before Lia could respond, a quiet presence stepped forward. Evan. He approached with composed steps, his posture taut, eyes colder than she'd seen in weeks. "She won't pay anything," he said, voice low. "Charge my account." Amy blinked. "Your account?" Dalton burst out laughing. "Your what? How would a night guard afford that?" But when the transaction processed, the staff member checking the tablet froze. His voice shook slightly. "The payment. It's cleared through a secondary executive account of Kestrel Corporation." A hush swept the room. Ava stared at Evan like she was seeing him for the first time. "Executive. But you how?" Evan simply nodded at the staff and turned back to Lia. "Are you all right?" She nodded, though her heart thudded painfully. Every time she thought she understood him, the ground moved beneath her feet again. The banquet officially began. High-ranking investors, politicians, and department heads filled the hall. Rumors swirled that CEO Hale might attend something that hadn't happened in 2 years. While Lia replaced the stained cloth, she overheard 2 managers whispering, "CEO Hale is feared for a reason. They say he guards the entire Kestrel Empire himself. We need to be perfect tonight. I heard he fired an entire division last time." Lia felt a chill. That was the man she needed to meet, but the idea frightened her more than she expected. As she finished adjusting the orchids at the centerpiece table, Ava drifted closer to Evan with predatory intent. Ava leaned in, brushing imaginary dust from his sleeve. "You know, if my family had known you had connections, they would have treated you better. Maybe you and I could still." Evan stepped back sharply. "Don't touch me." The rejection echoed. Ava's face turned scarlet. Lia pretended to focus on the flowers, but the tension between them stabbed at her. For reasons she didn't want to admit, jealousy burned like salt water in her veins. The banquet shifted into full motion when Armand Leto approached the main stage, directing staff and checking the Orchid Noir. He nodded approvingly at Lia. "Your method saved the exhibit. Good work." Some guests overheard and murmured with surprise. Amy hissed from across the table, "Just wait. Tonight isn't over. She'll slip eventually." Lia ignored her. Moments later, a deafening hush fell over the banquet. Staff straightened, guests stood. A line of executives hurried toward the entrance. A voice announced, "Chairman Marcus Hale has arrived." Lia turned, heart hammering. Marcus Hale was imposing, silver hair, sharp eyes, presence like a storm contained within a suit. Guests bowed slightly as he passed. He greeted many with a nod, but his gaze sharpened when it fell on the Orchid Noir. He examined it closely. This bloom recovered better than expected. Armand stepped forward. "Thanks to Lia Rowan, Chairman." Marcus looked at Lia. "You did this?" "Yes," Lia whispered. But before the moment could settle, Ava seized her chance. She strode forward, dramatically pointing at Lia. "Mr. Chairman, you should know this girl is trouble. She ruined your event decorations earlier and nearly caused a scene. My family has been dealing with her behavior for years." Marcus didn't react. Encouraged, Ava pressed on. "She's not qualified to be here. Ask anyone." Lia felt the familiar sting of humiliation, yet, before she could respond, a voice sliced through the air. "That's enough." The entire hall turned. Evan walked toward them with a quiet authority that didn't belong to a security guard or a low-level employee. Guests instinctively stepped aside for him. Ava stammered, "Evan, stay out of this." But the staff around them suddenly dropped into respectful bows. "CEO Hale." Silence hit the room like a crashing wave. Dalton went pale. Amy nearly dropped her clipboard. Celeste clutched her champagne flute as if it were an anchor in a storm. Lia's breath caught. Her heart stumbled painfully. "CEO Hale, her husband." Evan met Marcus's gaze briefly, an acknowledgement between equals, then turned to face the crowd. And in that moment, Lia understood the truth she had been circling for days. The man everyone feared, the man guarding the empire, the man she'd married without knowing, was standing right in front of her. Lia barely slept after the banquet. She kept replaying the moment Evan walked into the hall, and every powerful person bowed to him. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ava's face draining of color, the crowd stiffening, and Evan looking at her with an expression that was part apology, part longing, part fear. By dawn, her phone buzzed with a new notification from the hotel mandatory meeting. Proposal review for Kestrel projects. Her heart clenched. Willow Shore, the demolition plan. She had no choice. She would face the entire Kestrel board today. She walked into the tiny apartment kitchen and found Evan at the table, sleeves rolled up, tie, discarded his hair, slightly mussed like he hadn't slept either. He looked strangely young without the weight of his title. "You're up early," she said cautiously. "So are you." His eyes softened, though she avoided his gaze. She set her bag on the chair. "I have a meeting today. Proposal presentations." He paused. "I know. You know everything," she whispered, bitterness edging her voice. Evan flinched as if the words struck something tender. But he didn't fight back. Instead, he reached into a drawer and pulled out her drafted proposal, crumpled at the edges, covered in pencil marks. "You left this on the table last night," he said. "I made a few suggestions." Lia stared, stunned. It wasn't just a few suggestions. He had reorganized the document into a professional structure, market analysis, sustainability projections, brand alignment with Kestrel values, long-term development curves, environmental impact planning. "You did all this?" she asked. He shrugged, trying to appear casual. "I've read a few proposals in my life." Lia swallowed hard. "Evan, I don't know how to deal with you right now. You don't have to deal with me," he said gently. "Just save your home." His voice cracked on the last words. She didn't understand why until later. At the executive hall, the atmosphere buzzed with tension. Board members filtered in, wearing suits worth more than her grandmother's house. Screens lit up. Assistants hurried around with digital tablets. Lia held her proposal against her chest, trying not to tremble. Ava strutted in, wearing a silver dress, confidence reignited after a night of crying into her mother's lap. She smirked at Lia. "Good luck, cousin. You'll need more than pity points today." Lia didn't respond. She found a seat at the far end as the meeting commenced. Ava was called first. She stood proudly flipping her hair. The demolition of Willow Shore will open prime oceanfront real estate. Immediate profit. Zero delay. Kestrel expands. Everyone wins. The board nodded approvingly. Lia's stomach twisted painfully. Then Ava added sharply, and as we all witnessed at the banquet, some people from Willow Shore are unprofessional liabilities. The room murmured with amusement. Lia closed her eyes. Do not break. Not today. When her turn came, she rose with her folder clutched in shaking hands. Ms. Rowan, the senior director, said, barely looking at her. Your housekeeping staff correct if I work in floral decoration? She corrected politely. The director didn't care. Proceed. Lia inhaled deeply. My proposal is called Flower Marina. It's a sustainable alternative to demolition, Ava Stage whispered. She's wasting our time. Lia continued anyway. She walked them through the soil composition, the coastal ecosystem, the rare sea-compatible orchids, including orchid noir. She explained how Willow Shore's natural structure could be transformed into a luxury eco-resort without destroying the community. She spoke about heritage, about protecting the environment, about revenue over 10 years instead of 10 months. When she finished, there was a brief, stunned silence. Then the director tapped his pen. The idea is sweet, but it lacks documentation. I have documentation, Lia said, reaching for her laptop. But when she opened it, her breath punched out of her. The file was gone. A blank screen. No proposal. No backup. Nothing. She froze. A chill raced down her spine. Ava hid a satisfied smirk behind her hand. Did you forget to save it, Lia? Someone chuckled. Typical. Unprepared. So unprofessional. Lia's throat tightened painfully. Her hands trembled uncontrollably. She whispered, gripping the table for balance. I don't know what happened. A director waved dismissively. Next presenter. No, Lia said suddenly. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was firm enough to halt movement. I remember the proposal. I can present it from memory. Laughter rippled around the room. But Lia began anyway. She described everything again this time, without notes, without screens, without safety nets. Her voice wavered at first, but as she spoke, something steadied inside her. Her father's lessons, her grandmother's stories, her own love for Willow Shore. By the time she finished, no one laughed. A slow clap echoed from the back of the room. Chairman Marcus Hale stepped forward. Well done, he said simply. Ava's face drained of color. The directors whispered to each other, nodding. One finally said, let's vote. The results came fast. 7 votes for further development of Flower Marina, 3 votes for demolition. Ava's proposal failed. The senior director stood. The board will delay demolition and order a full evaluation of Flower Marina. Relief washed over Lia so powerfully, she had to grip the table again. But the moment was far from finished. As the directors filed out, Ava cornered Marcus. Chairman Hale, you can't do this. My family deserves to be aligned with Kestrel. I deserve a place in this company. Marcus regarded her coolly. Deserve it on what grounds? Ava's voice trembled with desperation. Because I'm the future, and my father, he's always said that maybe I could be like a daughter to you. Marcus frowned. Child, I have no daughter. Ava blinked, confused. But your son Evan is the heir. Marcus's eyes slid toward the hallway where Evan stood silently watching everything. Ava followed his gaze. Her lips parted. Understanding, pure horror hit her like a wave. Lia turned just as Ava whispered, No. He's Hale, Evan Hale, and she's the one he married. Lia couldn't bring herself to look at him. Not yet. Not when her heart was still trembling from victory and betrayal at the same time. The penthouse atop Kestrel North Tower glittered with gold-trimmed lights and a skyline view so wide it felt unreal. Lia stepped inside carrying a tray of orchids, trying to blend in with the staff. Everyone she passed wore designer clothes, diamond watches, and expressions carved from arrogance. She didn't belong here, but neither did the lies that had haunted her for years. A ripple of whispers followed her as she arranged the flowers on a display table. Isn't that the girl from last night's drama, the one who married a guard? She shouldn't be here. Lia swallowed her discomfort and focused on her task. Orchid noir, the bloom she'd saved, rested in her hands like fragile starlight. She set it gently on a pedestal, adjusting the petals. Then a familiar voice sliced into her. "Of course you're here ruining another event." Ava Rowan approached in a shimmering emerald gown, her smile sharpened like glass. Dalton followed, puffed up in a suit he clearly couldn't afford. Lia held steady. "I'm working. Please leave me alone." "No," Ava said sweetly. "I want all these important people to know who you really are." Before Lia could move, Ava raised her voice and addressed the crowd. "Everyone, this girl my cousin once stole from our family. She's not an employee. She's a parasite." Dalton nodded solemnly, loving the attention. "Her mother ran off after shaming us. The whole Rowan line has always been trouble." Guests whispered. A low hum of judgment filled the air. Lia's stomach twisted painfully, but she refused to bow her head. Armand Leto stepped forward unexpectedly. "That's enough. I've worked with thieves before. She is not one of them." Ava's smile flickered, but she pushed on, pulling out her phone. "If you want proof, I have it." She projected a video to the nearest screen, blurry footage of Lia bending over a flower pot backstage earlier that day. Gasps erupted. Lia stared in horror. The footage was edited, cropped to make it seem as if she'd been stealing the orchid rather than checking its soil. "That video is fake," Lia said, breath shaking. "I would never sabotage anything." "Of course you deny it," Ava sneered. Lia reached behind her and lifted the orchid noir she'd prepared for the chairman. The bloom shimmered flawless and full of life. "If I destroyed orchids," she said steadily, "why would I put my own work on display? This is mine. I restored it." Armand stepped forward again, voice firm. "The recovery of this flower is impossible for the average gardener. Only someone with advanced knowledge could do this. She is not lying." Guests murmured again, this time with less certainty, toward Ava. Before anyone could press further, a hush fell over the room. The air seemed to shift. "Chairman Marcus Hale has arrived." People turned toward the private elevator as Marcus Hale walked in silver hair, immaculate eyes, sharp enough to cut steel. He paused at the orchid noir and examined it closely. "Incredible," Marcus said. "Who restored this?" Lia stepped forward. "I did." Marcus was about to respond when Ava darted in front of him. "Mr. Chairman, please, you can't trust her. She manipulates people. She married a guard just to climb into the company." Marcus looked at her unimpressed. "Guards are employees too, and orchids don't fix themselves." Ava bristled, but she still. Before she could finish, another voice, smooth, deep, and devastatingly familiar, cut through the room. "Enough." The crowd parted as Evan stepped inside. He didn't wear his uniform tonight. He wore a black suit tailored to perfection, the lighting catching on the silver clasp of his cufflinks. His presence shifted the room instantly. Staff stiffened, guests straightened, executives bowed. Dalton gasped. A glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered on the floor. Ava staggered back. No, that's impossible." Marcus stepped forward. "Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to formally introduce my son, CEO of Kestrel, Evan Hale." The title echoed across the walls like a strike of thunder. Lia's vision blurred. Her breath hitched. Every conversation she'd ever had with him clicked brutally into place. His calmness, his knowledge, his strange access, his impossible phone alerts. Dalton dropped to one knee. "Miss Hale, I didn't realize." Ava grabbed Dalton's arm for support, her face chalk white. "Evan, why didn't you tell us?" He didn't spare her a glance. He walked straight to Lia. "Lia," he said softly, so softly she felt it more than heard it. "I tried to protect you from all this. I didn't want to hurt you." She stepped back as if burned. Hurt didn't even begin to cover it. Evan's jaw clenched. "Your family tried to use you. They lied to you. They humiliated you. They manipulated this marriage for money." Dalton trembled. We didn't know." Marcus silenced him with a cold glare. "You will no longer be welcome in any Kestrel facility. All partnerships with the Rowan family are hereby terminated." The announcement rippled through the crowd like wildfire. Ava burst into tears. Dalton pleaded. No one listened. Evan looked back at Lia. "I did it to protect you. All of it." Her eyes filled, but not with relief. "You lied to me," she whispered. "And you let me believe you were someone else." Her voice cracked. "I trusted you." Lia, she shook her head and stepped away. I can't listen right now. Her breath shuddered, not when everything I knew just broke apart. She turned and rushed out of the penthouse, weaving through stunned guests. Evan took a step to follow, but Marcus laid a firm hand on his shoulder. Let her breathe, son. Evan's eyes followed the door she'd vanished through, anguish etched across his features. Meanwhile, down the hall, Armand hurried after Lia. Wait, he said gently. There's something you must know about your father. Lia stopped, stunned, heart pounding. My father, Armand nodded solemnly. He wasn't just a gardener. He was the former head of botanical research for Kestrel, one of Marcus Hale's most trusted people. Her world already broke and tilted again. Your father protected this company long before you saved that orchid. Armand continued softly. You have deeper roots in Kestrel than you ever imagined. Lia's breath trembled. She had come to this city thinking she was nobody. But now she wasn't sure who she was at all. Lia didn't remember falling asleep on the midnight bus. She only remembered the hollow ache in her chest, the blurred city lights sliding past the window, and the sound of her own heartbeat drowning out every memory of Evan Hale. When the driver called out Willow Shore, she jolted awake, wiping her face quickly before stepping into the familiar scent of salt and wind. The village was quiet under the early morning sky. Houses slept with their windows cracked open. Fishermen prepared their nets, and the sea whispered against the sand the same way it had since she was a child. Here, everything waited for her without judgment. Her grandmother's old chair sat on the porch as if someone had been using it moments ago. Lia sank into it, drawing her knees to her chest. She didn't cry, not yet. She was too tired for tears. Armand's revelation echoed in her mind. Your father wasn't just a gardener. He was the head of Kestrel's botanical research. He protected this company long before you saved that orchid. She touched the wooden railing gently. Dad, why didn't you tell me? Why did everything have to be a secret? The ocean gave no answer. A soft drizzle began, a light misty rain that clung to her eyelashes. She didn't move. She let it wash over her, hoping it would take the confusion with it. Far above the coastline, a helicopter engine hummed. She looked up, startled. A sleek black craft circled once before landing on the old pier. Villagers poked their heads out, murmuring with surprise. Lia stood, slowly, breath caught in her throat. Evan stepped out. No suit, no guards, no shield of power. Just Evan, hair messy from the wind ties shoved into his pocket, rain catching on his eyelashes as he searched for her face. He walked toward her, ignoring the whispers around them. Each step seemed heavier, more hesitant, more human. When he finally reached her, he didn't speak at first. Neither did she. You ran, he said at last, voice rough. You lied, she replied softly. He closed his eyes. I did. The wind tugged at his shirt. Lia saw something she hadn't seen before. Not the cold CEO, not the calm stranger, but a man terrified of losing something precious. I hid my identity, he said, because I wanted you to see me as a person, not as a title, not as power, not as the man your family wanted to exploit. You could have told me, she whispered. I wanted to, every day. But then you smiled at me for who I was pretending to be, and His voice cracked. I was afraid you'd walk away. Her chest tightened painfully. He stepped closer. And there's something else you need to hear. He pulled a sealed envelope from his inner pocket. The paper was worn, the ink faded. It's from your father, Evan said gently. He left it with my father years ago. He asked Marcus to protect Willow Shore. He asked him to protect you. Lia's breath trembled as she opened it. Her father's handwriting stared back at her messy, hurried, unmistakably him. He wrote about Willow Shore's botanical potential, about rare plants that grew only along this coastline, about the research he'd hidden to keep the village safe. He wrote about her. Lia is the one who will revive everything I leave behind. She is stronger than she knows. She carries the sea in her hands. Tears fell silently onto the page. She didn't wipe them. Evan waited silent, letting her have the moment. When she finally looked up, he went down on one knee, not with a ring, but with a blueprint. Flower Marina, he said softly. Designed with your notes, your vision, your father's research. I want to build it with you, not for Kestrel, not for profit, for Willow Shore, for you. Her lips trembled. Why are you showing me this? Because the first time you said, I do, it wasn't your choice. He lifted the blueprint slightly. This time I want you to choose. The rain thickened into a steady drizzle. Evan stayed kneeling in it. I won't hide from you again, he said. Not my name, not my past, not my heart. A long moment passed, the sea crashing villagers watching from afar, the blueprint fluttering between them. Then Lia stepped forward. She touched his face gently, her hand trembling. I don't forgive you yet, she whispered. But I believe you. Relief hit him so hard, his breath shook. She smiled slightly through her tears. And yes, I choose this future. I choose us. But you're starting from zero. He laughed a quiet, broken, grateful sound. Then zero is exactly where I want to begin. He stood and pulled her into him as the waves crashed behind them, sealing the moment with a kiss that tasted like rain and return in something new. 3 months later, Willow Shore Flower Marina opened to worldwide attention. Lia became the head of the Botanical Research Division, and villagers called Evan Lia's assistant much to his embarrassment. The Rowan family disappeared from Clearwater Bay, stripped of every partnership. Orchid Noir became the symbol of renewal, its petals as dark and resilient as the woman who saved it. But that night, standing with Evan on the hill overlooking the glowing marina, Lia felt something settle inside her, a peace she'd never known. And when Evan knelt again this time with an actual ring, she laughed through tears and said, Now this is a real beginning. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and the future unfolded like a blooming flower. And so their story began for real this time. Thank you for staying with Lia and Evan until the final chapter. If you were in Lia's place, would you have forgiven Evan sooner or made him work harder? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoy modern romance, hidden identity love stories, or millionaire twists like this one, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next story. And tell me, where are you watching from? I'd love to see how far this story travels.